Hey y'all, welcome back to Sydney with Ashley. I'm Ashley. I wanted to go ahead and get on here and do a decolonizing consumerism, but I'm gonna multitask because I have some stickers to cut out. A lot of stickers to cut out. I just figured out something really exciting. I know this isn't a weekly mate, but these are all my stickers. So I have to cut them out. I've already cut out a couple. Okay, anyway. Alright, so decolonizing consumerism. Today, I want to focus on the topic of constant war, and how that impacts, and how consumerism, how there's like a reciprocal relationship between war and consumerism. And I think this week is a really good time to talk about this because there's so much propaganda and rhetoric and social, there's a lot of social conversation, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of support for war when we think about consumerism. But a lot of times, so during COVID, the rhetoric or language of supply chain got really normalized and popularized. And we're seeing that again right now in these times. I should probably use my Cricut, but I don't know how to tell my Cricut to cut these. Something. Oh, thank you. Package. Anyway, it's something that we're seeing a lot of conversation about, specifically gas. Right? Everyone's talking about the gas. Everyone's talking about how the gas is out and how expensive it is. Now, I'm a millennial. We see this every few years, so I don't really allow myself. Now, I am doing more traveling right now than usual, but I'm not really allowing myself to fall into the trap of scarcity, which is what consumerism, when there's a war, often does. It reminds you that there's not enough materials. That's why war is happening to begin with, right? I just saw an interesting post from someone who was like, oh, I'm so grateful Donald Trump is giving us a warning about how there's going to be shortages. I was like, none of this would have happened if Donald Trump wouldn't have bombed fucking Iran, right? And I apologize for saying it Iran. I now know better. Iran is how we say it. So anyway, the complexities, I mean, like I said, there's a reciprocal relationship between war and consumerism. Now we live in a society, pretty much at a global scale at this point in time because of colonization and imperialism, in which we have to consume to survive, right? We have to buy our necessities, right? But I want you to acknowledge what you're hearing and seeing and not let it take you for, I gotta cut those better. I gotta cut these better too. I'm so proud of myself that this says mature back to nature. I have a whole sticker line, y'all. I'm very proud of myself. I've always wanted to have a sticker line. Oh my god, I just let my fucking elbows crush these. So I just figured out how to put the sticky protectant on him. So I will get a little bit more profesh as we go. But this is just my first run of all of my sticker designs. Anyway, you know, people are talking about victory gardens and how that was a big deal in the, I don't want to cut this, that's way too many to cut right now. How victory gardens were a big thing for World War II, and we're going to see, you know, and I've been preparing this, you know, I think it's important to, you know, have as much self-reliance as you can, right? Have as many measures of sustainability, self-sustainability as you can. Now, I have a solar system, not like planets. I have solar panels and batteries but it's not plugged up. It's not hooked up. I'm not using them, but I do have them at my disposal if I need them. I don't really, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think that we all need to be thinking about sustainability a little bit differently, but as far as the war, there's always going to be another war. There's always going to be another front, especially if you are here in the United States. There's always going to be a war. There will always be a war until we have an actual revolution and change the system. There will always be a war. Everybody who's currently in a position of power within the political system at this point in time has been bought out by Israel. So, I mean, the country has been compromised. If you're someone who believes in the founding fathers and whatnot, you know that they were good guys. I mean, well, that's a good place to start. They weren't. They were horrible people. They were the slave owners themselves. So even those doctrines that, the documents that everybody's working from, it's like, oh, America's such a good place. No, it's not. America was funded on genocide, on massacres, on violence, on rape and killing and pillaging of communities and, of people who were already here. And their lineage still lives on. They were unsuccessful in their attempts to completely genocide them, which is a good thing. But in that case, we need to follow the lead of people who do have that lineage. So, anyway. Oh my god, I am so proud. I have to add more ink to my printer so I can make more. I like this one a lot. This one is Patriarchy is Poison. Anyway, so these will be in my shop eventually. I know I'm all over the place. I'm always all over the place, but I really feel like it's important to just come on here and talk. I'm having a lot of deja vu. I think a lot of millennials are, because again, it's the same scare tactics. I mean, we've seen the oil prices go up. We've seen gas prices fluctuate constantly for the past 30, 20 years. And it's to blame. Honestly, it's to blame the United States relations with everyone else on the planet. They're trying to colonize, right? There are certain countries or civilizations that do not have Rothschild centralized banking. And if you search that list with the list of countries that United States and Israel are currently attacking, there's quite the overlap. Okay, so this is about, it's always going to be about money. It's always going to be about control of resources. It's always going to be a means to an end, right? War and consumerism go hand in hand. So again, as people who are experiencing this, who are not making these decisions, especially while we're in the belly of the beast, right? We have a lot of responsibility here in the United States to become as sustainable as we can, because the more we pull away from that system from within, it's like Jenga. We can pull certain things to make it collapse, right? Economic collapse. Think about Jenga. Think about how you're struggling, right? And I think there's a huge taboo about people like not wanting to admit that they're poor, that they're struggling. Look, we're not the elite. I don't care if even if you've got a couple million in your bank account, which you're probably not on my channel. Over here. I just closed my savings account yesterday because I saw that JP Morgan and Chase, I bank with Chase, and I heard yesterday that Chase has removed some loans for people, and I'm not a financial person. I'm not lucrative by any means. I like being poor. I'm creative, so I don't mind being too poor, right? And I use my money to build my self-sustainability, right, in different areas. This year, the big focus was on materials and machinery to create my own artwork that I can turn around and sell, so I can create my own means of production. so I can pull away from the systems. Now, I do have to buy in order to be able to do that, right? Everything, you have to buy into everything in order to be able to do it. But, you know, my consciousness is leading me to make these more sustainable, better choices for myself. And for the people that I want to have as customers, right? I want them to know that the products are, but I have to buy materials to make that happen, right? We all have, there's a catch-22 for all of us, regardless of what field we're in. I was saying something else before I went on that tangent. I don't remember. War, constant war, and consumerism is a relationship that we're always going to have if we're allowing capitalism to remain the status quo, right? So again, pulling away from that as much as possible, that's what we were talking about, is that collapse, right? Is the way that we can do that. You know, a lot of people are doing that, but people are popping up in communes, or people are buying land and trying to live off of their land, right? And there's a lot of people going back to the way things were pre-colonial times, and that takes a lot of privilege, right? It takes a lot of privilege to be able to do that, to be able to, you know, a lot of folks don't even go through the permitting process, right? Because colonialism and imperialism made it so that you can't just do what you want to do on your own land. You have to get a permit from the higher ups. You have to get things checked. You have inspections. You have all of these, you know, you have all of these things now that you have to do. And I know that seems like it doesn't matter, but it does, okay? All of the things that have become in place within this system are means to control. And war is the biggest means to control. I think my tiny's coming in, so we're probably going to get interrupted. I don't think I need to talk too much about this. Beware of how you feel when people are talking about the supply chain. Yes, there are, you know, Iran is using the Strait of Hormuz and access through it or to it as a punishment, right? There's a cause and effect. You're coming to bomb us out of fucking nowhere. Well, then we're not going to let you get your oil through here, right? The Strait of Hormuz is supposedly, I guess, never really heard of it until this week, but it's, you know, a huge way of transferring global goods. And we saw this a couple of years ago when Yemen removed access to the Red Sea, and that the strait that's over there by Israel too, because Yemen is the only country that's really been balls to the walls for Palestine. So you've had shipping containers having to go all the way around the bottom of Africa instead of being able to cut through. And I think a large portion of what Israel is trying to do in the Middle East is create their own trade routes. And the United States is also doing this with the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico. And the United States, Trump specifically, this administration, is trying to fuck with the Panama Canal. They're trying to get access for that. Because the Panama Canal is a way to get through land instead of having to go around entire countries, right? So, things to think about. But all of those things stem from the need to move goods, whether the good is, you know, sticker paper to make my sticker shiny, or it's a I don't know, medical equipment, whatever the fucking product is, it has to move eventually, right? And we've already talked about globalization and logistics, and this war brings up a whole other version of that. And, you know, all of these things are interconnected. Every topic we talk about is interconnected on this, right? The powers that be want cheap labor, they want cheap products, they want to make the things more expensive, and that's the thing with the need for oil, with the need for goods. So I saw someone who works in logistics talking about, okay, well, it's not just your gas that's being impacted, it's also the gas that these ships use, right? It's the, you know, and there's just so much. We've already been through this. We've already been through this through a different degree. But now it's more of a war situation, right? So regardless of how you feel about the war or what you see as the reason for the war, the point of the matter is that the war is happening, and it's going to have an impact on goods. It's going to have I hate the word supply chain. I hate the way that was adopted as common language so quickly. I hated it. That happened during the pandemic. I was like, ugh. Everyone was like talking about the supply chain, and I was like, oh my god, you guys just sound like a bunch of fucking robots. And here I am using the word because that's the language that's been adopted. It's become, status quo to talk about it like that. But only in the past few years, right? Okay, when we were growing up in the early 2000s, we weren't talking about supply chain issues at all, right? So again, when there's become this certain degree of globalization, there's this shared language, right? So the thing about this is so interesting is that, we the people don't want war. We don't, I mean, there are certain people who support Trump and everything he does, right? Like, want to wipe his ass and shit. They support it, but I don't. I don't support war of any kind. I think war is so stupid. But here we are. The reality is that we don't get to make these decisions. We have to live through them, and we have to do the best we can to navigate it while it's happening. So the point of the matter is that consumerism and constant war are hand in hand, as long as capitalism is the main way of life. Okay? I don't think there's that much more. I know I've been doing a lot more. I haven't been here in a couple weeks, and I feel bad, so I wanted to get on here. I hope I'm not, just pay attention. And don't allow yourself to be afraid, because war is constant. It is a constant thing. Even when this conflict is over, there's going to be another one that picks up, right? And that's going to have impacts at a global scale for our consumerism. It's a cycle. It's a systemic cycle. They do this on purpose because, again, these people own everything. So if they can get people to feel enough scarcity and lack and fear around not having enough, then they can raise the prices, supply and demand, quite frankly, right? Supply and demand is huge for times of war. It's the entire economic, model, right? Make people think that there's not enough, or fuck up the means to make it so that there isn't enough. Then you can inflate the prices, and then the people go poor, having to get their basic needs, right? We've seen this. We've been living in this, whether it was the toilet paper shortage of 2020 or the oil shortage. Like I said, as a millennial, we saw all those gas prices, and we've seen all this rhetoric, and we've seen these fucking conversations, not the supply chain words, verbiage per se, but we've seen shortages on gas and gas prices, and, anytime there's an oil spill, there's, the worst thing about the oil spill is that there's a shortage of gas. No, the worst thing about the oil spill is it's completely polluting the water and killing everything that relies on fresh water, right? So, I don't know. Try to not allow yourself to get taken, taken by the tide of scarcity. And recognize that when there's war, there's always going to be shortages, because it puts people in a scarcity. People who are scared and afraid and feel lack are so easy to control. Not only within consumerism, but also just collectively, whether they're backing the ideas or, using the language or supply chain. Yeah, it's utopia, which is very much propaganda for policing, but Niall really likes it. So we've already had conversations. I'm like, you cannot be police or in the military. Anything else you can do. Anything else? Anyway. Alright, I'm gonna keep cutting my stickers. Like I said, I should really figure out a way to get these on Cricut to cut, but I don't know. I'm very proud of my sticker line. So yeah, I'm over here working on more products constantly. Hello, Lucy. We got a cookie cake today because we felt like it. But I have this big package outside. I think I know what it is, but I'm gonna go grab that. It was necessity. Unfortunately, I had to buy necessities. I mean, we all do. I think that we are going to see a lot more. I mean, it's always going to get worse before it gets better unless we really take the reins, right? At this point, we're allowing these things to happen. We're allowing these people to do what they're doing, right? Whether it's ICE, whether it's the Trump administration, they're going to announce a draft pretty soon. They're going to use this. I mean, when you come conscious and you're like decolonized enough, it's so easy to like watch the playbook happen. Like, they're talking about, I'm really proud of the collective. Maybe it's just the people I watch, but more and more people are talking about the way that they're framing this attack on California. Like, Iran is going to attack California. And then you had the drones missing in Kentucky or Tennessee this week. So we know the location that they're going to attack, and I will tell you who they are in a minute. We know the drones are going to be used to carry out the attack, and we know the building that they're going to attack. It's never been quite this clear, and I don't think there's been enough of a conscious enough to like watch this happen the way it is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this week the FBI came out and said that California was at a threat for a drone attack from Iran. Now, if you know anything about the world geography, you know that California and Iran are pretty much the farthest away from each other that they can possibly be. Like, besides Hawaii or Alaska, Iran is farther away from California than any other point in the United States. Literally. So for Iran to fly a drone all the way over the United States, they'd either have to go all the way over the United States, or they'd have to go all the way over China and Russia and Japan, right? So either way, California is literally the furthest point away from Iran as an American state, again, besides Hawaii. Hawaii's in the middle of fucking nowhere, right? So it's absurd to even be saying that. Now, who hates California? Trump hates California. Who has... I see it as they're probably using this as a way to destroy evidence around the Epstein files, because Hollywood is balls deep in what was happening within the Epstein files, right? So you have the guy, Larry something, who bought the World Trade Centers. Now, if you don't think 9/11 was an inside job, it was, okay? Go watch the movie Loose Change by Dylan Avery. It is free on YouTube. That was the movie that started my consciousness journey, started waking me up to the terror of the government, and it changed my life, right? Dylan Avery, he's a movie documentary filmmaker. I think he's in California somewhere. But anyway, this Larry... What's his name? Silverstein Properties. Is his name Larry? So he owns the U.S. Bank Tower in Los Angeles, which is the tallest... he bought it in September 2020. It is the tallest building in the skyline of LA. It's like the round... You'll see it. If you look at the skylight... So people are talking about, he also bought the World Trade Center 6 weeks before 9/11 happened. Now, if you watch the movie Loose Change by Dylan Avery, you will see that Israel had people in the buildings, in the World Trade Centers. It's not a known fact. It is to a growing population, but as far as like the masses and status quo information go, no, it's not a known fact. Because people are like, never forget, right? Never forget that your government bombed you, okay? So they're doing it again, right? They're going to do it again, and it's a means to an end for them, right? So again, I believe, maybe they've moved a lot of evidence into that U.S. Bank building, but there's a lot of speculation. But now that the FBI has made it blatantly clear that there's going to be an attack on California, people are speculating that it's going to be this building, because this is the same guy who owned the World Trade Centers, right? He's buddies with Netanyahu. People who have enough money to own buildings are buddies with each other. And the Los Angeles is going to be hosting the 2028 Olympics. So there's going to be new development happening to, make an Olympic stadium and, all of the Olympic buildings. And this building is smack dab in downtown Los Angeles, so, which is a horrible place, quite frankly, in my opinion. I was there for a while. So again, war and consumerism are a means to an end, right? This is going to cause huge panic. I mean, and innocent people are going to die. I mean, just because he owns the building doesn't mean that the building isn't being used by other businesses and other entities, and normal people are working there. Same with the World Trade Centers. Normal people worked there, and they attacked their own people to, and then George Bush said weapons of mass destruction for the next, however many months. And it gained enough complacency and support of the masses to continue, a war in the Middle East from here, we're still there, right? So war is always going to be a constant. Donald Trump has started wars in many countries right now. I mean, he's not the only one. All the presidents start wars. Presidents are puppets, right? Presidents serve the ruling elite in a different way. And it's not just presidents. Any sort of monarchy or anything. I mean, they're all in cahoots with each other. The people who rule the world are buddies, okay? And they're all in the Epstein files. Why are we pretending like this isn't real? So anyway, try to do as much as you can to be self-sustainable. It's not easy. It takes investment. We already talked about that. But maybe make smarter investments, think, what could make me, if we lost everything, what would I want? It's a very fine line between, prepping and, there's a lot happening. We have to be on a lot of different playing fields at one time, right? I say prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and live your life while it's all happening, right? It's a hard balance to find, but don't allow yourself to get caught up with these scarcity mind-fucking things. I saw this one sister, this black woman, who was like, y'all are freaking out about these gas pumps, but I'm just going to keep putting $20 in my car. And, it's just like, I don't even care how much the gas is. I'm going to put $20 in my car. And I think that's a really good attitude to have, because it's like, when the gas shortage is over, there's going to be something else to freak out about, something else to consume out of fear, right? So don't allow yourself to be a pawn in this. And when you start to feel overwhelmed, or you allow your nervous system to get swept up in the emotion of feeling like you don't have enough, or you're not going to be okay, recognize that for what it is, and then go outside and ground, right? Recognize, I'm allowing myself to, and I have to still do this too, because I came out of survival mode, but I still get swept up in emotions sometimes of, remembering how hard things were. Or remembering the things. So, when I did my prepping, a lot of that was to alleviate that stress, right? So, I bought DVDs so that Niall and I would have TV to watch, because we're ADHD, we need the sound. We need constant stimulation. Or I have a couple generators, because when Niall was born, we didn't have any electric, and we only had the one generator. And, I'm like, I would like to have generators, but I would like to have solar panels to go with those, and I do have those now, right? So think about the things that you need to live comfortably, right? And make sure you have those things. But don't allow yourself to first hoard stuff, because that's not necessary, right? People, think about consuming, right? Think about how much abundance there actually is, right? There's always going to be something somewhere that can support you. You just have to get creative about how to find those things, or build those relationships with people who do that, right? So maybe you have farmers in your community. Maybe you could talk to them about kind of getting your meat sourced from them, or getting eggs. Maybe there's a farm stand, things like that. We have to move a little bit differently and a lot more locally in times of war. And again, there's always war, But this war is going to be impacting us a lot different. So, collective liberation. Ooh, it's a sticker. I'm so proud of these, you guys. So I'm gonna keep cutting. Like I said, I have a ton of cutting to do. I gotta cut my borders. I think those look better without the borders. So I gotta go in and trim these. That's what she said. Anyway, just be careful. Don't allow yourself to get swept up in this shit. They're always gonna have you needing something else, wanting something else, feeling like there's not enough. That's how they stay in power. That's how they remain relevant. So I'm not saying ignore what's going on. I'm not saying become apathetic, but beware of how you're being impacted by the language, by the rhetoric. And, you know, again, build community networks to support each other. Oh, God, these look good. Okay, bye. Have a good one.